So we buy a lot of oil and gas, yes?
Yeah.
Don't we? It's
Yeah.
imported, yes?
Yes. It is.
So you have gas that's imported and oil, which then makes fuel, yes?
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, there we are. So we do have this. So therefore, if we're bringing this into our nations, yes,
Yeah.
from other nations,
Yeah.
potentially we're being profitized on, yes?
Yeah.
And we also are under a form of control, yes?
Mhm.
And then this means that we are not independent on this sort of stuff, yes?
Yeah.
So where this can hold up other nations, I understand and I appreciate that. But also at the same time, this leaves us we're subject to, if you don't do, you don't get,
Yeah.
maybe. Or if you don't pay, you don't get.
Mhm. Yeah.
I think that's kind of, that's not in the video. I'm not going to be able to rub that out because it's permanent, so I need something else a little bit more stronger. But this seems like an old way of being, doesn't it?
Mhm.
Like the old.
Yeah.
And if we conform to this, and yeah, this might be great that we could get a good deal on this one, and maybe we could get a good deal on this one. A good deal is never a good deal because over time and time again, it shows that we still have this trend.
Yeah.
Everything goes up. Everything is rising up, and it seems we have to set aside some level of money, don't we, as a nation, if we're importing this, that it's possibly going to end up going up. So we have to set aside, is it GDP? Would this money overall that we're making?
That's what we are making, isn't it?
Okay, so if we're making that as a nation, right, that's good to have a lot of GDP, yes?
Yeah, it's...
But when things start to go up, such as these prices, yes?
Yeah.
We lose GDP, yes? Our GDP goes down. Because somewhere along the line, don't we have to subsidy the money going up?
Yeah.
So therefore, something has to give. Does it not? That seems like a good way of doing things, but a deal is never a deal because there's always this rising. This is weird to me, why we all do this when we have a lot of... if we utilize the techniques that we've got, right? So I often wonder what rockets, they contain hydrogen, don't they?
Yes, they do.
These rockets that go up have got hydrogen in them, yeah? So if we were to maneuver on hydrogen and utilize it and think a little bit more out the box or around the box, inside the box, perhaps let's just throw away the box altogether, yes?
Yeah.
We could rid out this, and I don't know if it's going to be more beneficial to our nations, which I think it will be, because, again, we can be under a level of control, although very small, but still control nonetheless. If everybody relies on a car that needs fuel, that needs petrol, that needs this, that needs a... you're stuck in a sort of a control cycle, really.
Yeah.
Everybody is. And that might not be good, especially if you want to venture off elsewhere, because, we might not give you the fuel for that, or, you can't use it for this, this, and this. Who knows? However it is, we know how the world works sometimes. So we've got to look at that and think, damn, we're running out of this thing called fuel and stuff, and damn, we have to get it from over there, or no, it's getting a dirty Okay, yeah, we all heard it all. Not saying that it is or isn't a thing.
Yeah.
But if we were to take a hydrogen rocket, I'm going to draw a very silly version of one, okay? I'm not going all out on it. Okay, let's say that we got our little rocket enterprise here, yeah? And a nice big boosters either side and whatnot. Let's give it a little payload. Nice. Now, this forces out an awful lot of air. An example, it could be like my Hoover, okay? Not sucking, but blowing. So I got a Hoover that you can either switch the pipe and make it suck in a load of air, or you can have it and switch it round so it blows out a lot of air. We'll do that towards the end of the video. But it's this blowing out of air that I'm interested in. This here. All of this. And why am I interested in that? Well, because it's a fast movement of air, which then gives you the lift.
Yeah.
that you need, yes?
Mm-hmm.
Wait. So it gives you the lift that you need in order to rise your rocket.
Yeah.
I'm fascinated in the exhaust of this.
Mm-hmm.
If we switched it around a little bit more so.
Yeah.
So we understand that that lifts. And we were to make, I don't know, you've got your ocean.
Mm-hmm.
You take your ocean water, we sterilize it in some way. Don't mean sterilize it, I mean separate the salts, so distill. Is that right? Possibly.
Yeah.
And then we have this fueled into a rocket,
Mm-hmm.
but we change it. We lay the rocket down instead. But this rocket is uniquely different. It has a fuel line that runs into it that continuously puts in more fuel, or we use two that are connected to the same output, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So when this one is refueling from this,
Yeah.
and this is being continuously fed to be refueled, which then pipes it into here. When one is depleting, the other one is refueling.
Mm-hmm.
When this one is depleting, this one is refueling. Back and forth, bit like pistons in an engine, to be honest. But we want to take that fast movement of air from each of them, and then we connect them to something that goes a little bit like this. Nice. So that it always gives us fast moving air, yes?
Yeah.
Very fast moving air. So when one is releasing, the other one is blocked so that this flow can flow through here. When this one's depleted, this switches over and then this one starts. So it always lets it out. Because everyone says, oh, you don't want a hydrogen engine because they can explode and you'll need a blood test or whatever to identify. That's probably very true. That's only in the beginning. When you give this technology a chance, what happens if we could make it so that we keep the hydrogen fuel separate from the system? It feeds into the engine. And if there was an accident, inevitability in some cases, it inflates, disconnects and inflates in a protective barrier that is capable of taking an immense amount of G-force without breaking the cylinder in any way. You know, you don't want a fuel of oxygen and hydrogen, you want to keep them separate. Okay, the environment is oxygen-based, but at the same time, if it was to inflate, something was to inflate around it, you know, we might not be good at taking the G-force.
Mm-hmm.
Again, because of when we drive faster, our weight inevitably becomes heavier. That's what causes severe bodily injuries when we crash, because you are now traveling faster. Therefore, technically you are traveling faster, but your body has become heavier on impact. So if I jump up and jump down, I might have exerted my body weight plus a little bit more in that jump. The ankle can deal with that. The body can deal with a small fall. If I'm running, I'm faster, so therefore I'm heavier. If I'm slightly heavier and I hit something, it's going to hurt a lot more. So I think it's something to do with weight.
Yeah.
And maybe that's not so simple to protect, but something else could possibly be more easier to protect. And as technology goes about and hydrogen cars get more and more adapted, you know, but until then, that there is more of a safer mechanism built in.
Yeah.
And that's going to come from not crashing test dummies into a building, a wall or something like that, or into an object. We need to test run hydrogen cylinders.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to throw these into a wall until we find something that can cocoon it, that we know that the car isn't going to travel X this fast. It's never going to go above, let's say, if it was, 70 miles an hour.
Yeah.
But we put a protective mechanism inside that fuel tank that it can withstand up to 130 miles per hour. If the vehicle doesn't travel any faster than that, but we'd have to take into consideration two cars traveling at 70 miles an hour hit into each other, then have a grand total of slightly more. So this ratio number would have to be an awful lot more than that to look at all types of crashes or accidents that could possibly come from that. So two objects hitting into each other. Did the hydrogen cylinder survive that? Yes, it did. We want to be able to hit this in such a way that you know in your heart of hearts, it's not going to cause an explosion. If there's a fire, again, can it be protected in a layer that is just not possible to catch it on fire? Or it could, but it could be put out quicker, depending on what happened or where it went and this, that, and the other. There is always ways around the risk factor if we switch a dummy out and we put a cylinder in there. We don't want to fill it up with a lot of hydrogen in the beginning, maybe just a snippet just to see what happens. Or perhaps we don't fill it with anything apart from a load of sensors and we just keep testing until we make an unbreakable cylinder. So one that can be installed into a car that no matter how it gets hit in any which way, shape or form, it does not explode, it does not leak gas, it switches off, the valves turn off. I mean, starting one and stopping it is probably the issue, but if you didn't start it like the rocket is designed to get going, and once it goes, it goes. But if we did it in a very different way, had it so that it could be put into a system further away, so you can have it at the back of the car, although very silly. Again, I'm just talking in hypothetical, that if it was at the back of the car or the front of the car, the system would be further away where the gas would have to travel through or be pulled through the pipework to meet the combustion compartment. And if anything along the way was sacrificed in that or became damaged or wasn't operating properly, it shuts off. And a protective casing envelops the hydrogen tank. And this one is going to have to be fire retardant. And you know, they can make this gel that I've seen where they can burn underneath it they can burn an awful lot of temperatures, high temperatures underneath this gel, and they can put wax crayons on the top of it and the wax crayons don't melt. Something along these lines around that sort of cylinder, so that yeah, it could burn, but it would take an awful lot before it breached into the tank. By that time, you would have expected to see fire brigade, whatnot, teams that are trained to remove this out of the way and then remove the hazard from the situation. I think it will get there. A little bit of time and the right sort of mindset to reach you there, I think helps us get there. Anyway, until that point, let's say it might be a bit too risky. Okie dokie. Well, we already have rockets, okay? If Britain moves it and makes them, I know that EU have them, America has them, and the West were to utilize these rockets to go off to the moon, go off to Mars, go off to Europa. There's got to be levels of lithium in these areas. It's got to be not just on the planet Earth as well in small pockets. We got to find it. We get out there and find it, if utilising that time to find it. Anyway, in the meantime with lithium, I'm sure there's more than enough batteries going around. And therefore, having this installed into a power station, because we've got wind turbines. We got lots of wind turbines, tons and tons of wind turbines, plus there's solar panels, plus there are wind turbines. But if we utilise wind turbines in a different way, so this is not a wind turbine, obviously, but it's a fan, and I think fans are no different to wind turbines, to be honest, in a way, just differently built. And this air moves really fast out the rocket, but aimed into a fan blade, one that was designed to take high heat. And even if it was hot close up, you don't want to be putting the fan like right at the back of the engine. No, we want to wait for it to cool down, further down the system somewhere. And even then, we can have some metals in there that are connected to gears, like you have on an engine. So the gears inside this chamber. So here is the hot zone, let's say, where it begins to melt things. Perhaps it's not great. But here is a more cool zone, let's say. It's cooler air. And we install a lot of fan blades into this system, all the way down, all the way down, all the way down. And this is all confined. The air has no choice but to go through these blades. And sure, in the beginning, when the rocket first starts off, this type of rocket laying down, it's no longer a rocket. It might struggle to spin these in the beginning because the air might just want to go through it. So you need to zap a charge to get this spinning in the beginning. Then it will increase because the air will begin to work with it. These will become faster and faster and faster and faster, perhaps too fast to connect directly a wind turbine to these. But if these were pulling through the system. And it can be done.
Yeah.
And these spin cogs, and the cogs come out and interconnect with other cogs. I'm just going to put another pulley on here. And then these pulleys are then connected to a series of wind turbines who don't have the propellers on them anymore. So, in essence, you could, again, very crude drawing, but it doesn't matter. It's the point. It's all about the point, not the art that goes into it. All of these are turbines, but without the propellers on them, but they've still got the spinner.
Mm-hmm.
All sit in a nice series somewhere in a factory. It doesn't really matter. And these begin to connect independently on these, so that when this rotates and these begin to rotate, it begins to rotate all of these wind turbines. That's day or night, windy or not. Summer, spring, winter, who cares? This will spin, 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 spin. Nice. And if there's going to be a lot of heat come off of these motors, which there will be, so play along with it. Also, there would be a nice quick release from one of these. That's why I think cogs would probably be better rather than on pulleys, because the cog could be on a gear that you lift off if that particular turbine was faulty. And then it can just be slid out of the back via a machine, replaced with another one, lever comes back down, the power is still going into the grid. The other one that's been pulled out goes into another part of a factory somewhere and it gets repaired. Then it's put back in when another one breaks. So you've got enough to keep switching them out. So they're not all connected together in a way. They are. Electromagnet, maybe. I don't know. Probably not, because it might interfere with the motor. They can be moved out. So if this was sideways view with your pulley, one goes wrong, it gets pulled out from the back. This is sat into a frame anyway. This one goes off for repair somewhere, and then another one is immediately put into the sleeve.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Then a lever comes back down and it connects it to the pulleys. So you've got basically each one is connected to another, which can be moved with a pull of a lever. Okay, 7A is no longer working properly. It's starting to degrade the whole system. Pull a lever. You don't even need to pull a lever. You can have this all set up with robotics, can do all of this for you, knowing when they're not operating at the way you would like it. Once that is disconnected from the rest of the... Wait for it to slow down, and it will.
Yeah.
Slide it out, new one in, lever down again. Doosh, it's now back on the... Everyone's getting a lot of power. Now, we said it's going to get hot.
Yeah.
Well, if you need water in this, can you not use ocean water around the chambers to actually cool this? Because you want the ocean water to get hot in order to try and get rid of some of these salt deposits, if it's possible. I mean, maybe not in the beginning, but as time goes on, I'm pretty sure that this would be pretty damn good. You'll be extracting salt, different things like that. And this connects on if you get to Europa, and there are some liquids coming back down. You know, you might want to run them through here just to... You know, is it called distill? Can't remember now. Where you're removing the salt from the ocean water. Anyway, via using the heat. This heat could be used for many other things. Build a building over it. These all sit at the bottom of buildings. Sit a building on top of it, and the warmth can come up through the building. You like to have a warm home in the winter? This will work. Okay, we'll have some of that heat in the summer. We'll do something else with it. Again, until then. Is it hot enough to travel through rods that go into a type of cooking device? Probably not, but again, ground floor, cafe, restaurant, something to heat food. Could you get it off of the heat that's already being naturally generated? And then you are no longer adding to the global temperature. If you think about it, because you're just using the heat anyway, but you would, if this was running away, creating the heat over there, and then you go and turn on something to get some heat for some food somewhere. Could this be at the back of a supermarket where they take all of their leftover food and put it in to make a massive hot pot that can be frozen and eaten later off of the heat that comes off of these? Again, if you use this heat in the correct way, you don't then have a heated station over here. Now the supermarket is generating heat, and now your home is generating heat, and this restaurant is now generating heat. If heat is a problem in those aspects. Again, these on here, switching from back to forth, one's draining, one's filling, one's draining, one's filling, one's draining, one's filling. This should give you a continuous supply of that fast-moving air, because technically that's all you want to do is move the air. The waste product is hydrocarbons. Again, can you build farms from this, especially ones that are housed underground? And can you use the hydrocarbons to feed into the nature?
Yeah.
underneath these, let's say, type supermarkets. Do you know what else you become if you nail this? You don't just become dependent on your own, making your own energy. So that's energy independence.
Mm-hmm.
You also can charge batteries off of this. So batteries in petrol stations somewhere, they get a charge. They're made from lithium or whatever battery. You can really get charges on this, to be fair. When you're charging these batteries and you go into a petrol station, they just switch your battery. I think I was writing this to the council in Thetford. I emailed over this many years ago, as I said in the other one. Either neither here nor there. You can then charge these batteries that then you could switch out, which would be no different than you go into the petrol station today, or diesel, or whatever, and you fill up your car. It's going to take a few minutes to fill up your car. You're still going to be waiting around anyway. Fill up your car. Once you filled it up, you go and pay. Well, once you swapped your battery over, which would take the same amount of time, you just fob it. Beep. Okay, all done. Thank you. And then you drive away. You've just gave into the system as well. You've give some money in to switch your battery around. This does generate jobs, or you'd put it into robotics. It's a bit like a car wash that comes in and does it automatically, switches your battery over for you. This helps to keep batteries optimized at their finest. And this is the guarantee that it would give you to say, okay, I'm going to switch my battery. At least you know the next battery that you get in and the next battery that you get in. You know, and if you don't switch it because you want to charge it at home, fine. You keep your battery, you can keep your battery, but remember, if it comes to cost for you to change the battery, it's going to cost you a lot more. Exchanging it this way, I think is healthier way to do it. I think because then you've always got the battery when it goes back into the station to be recharged. If it doesn't work properly, they have a few that are left in the spare zone, if you want to call it that. And these ones will be taken out, taken back, and find out what the error is and replaced, put back into the spares again. This switching of batteries like this keeps them good, keeps them very good. And yeah, I think that's, you know, gets you across the country a little bit more until hydrogen engines are made in a bit more of a safer way. Gives a little bit more time. You're generating electricity incorporated with solar panels, wind turbines anyway. The wind turbines are being manufactured to go out into nature. This keeps the efficiency of the motors growing. Mm-hmm. So does this, because when you're going through them, there's an issue with this one. They keep wearing out at this certain point. Okay, think tanks get involved. Let's fix these wear and tear areas. Mm-hmm. And then your wind turbines then. This one is still going, but this one has started to falter in the wear and tear area. Let's put one of these new ones on there. And then they stay in place without ever needing to be changed because the wear and tear has been taken care on these fast, guzzling ones that will be spinning a lot of the time, getting very hot. Then if you're using the heat off of it, again, you're moving the heat away. Moving heat away from these things makes them work finite, I think. Mm-hmm. I think that if they get too hot, it's an issue. Again, this can be dealt with by having one set of motors here and another series of motors here, and you switch between them. Yeah. So when this one's refueling, these ones calm down for a bit just so they can cool off. And then these ones start taking up the ramp of this one, and then, now this one is starting to go again. In between, this is cool down, heat up, cool down, heat up. Again, it sounds like a very big thing to do, but again, even shipping oil around is going to cost oil to ship oil. It's going to cost gas to pump gas, to get gas. And again, perhaps it might just need to be a hybrid sort of exchange where we go. All right, we'll take this for now. For now, we'll take this, but we're going our own way. Then, like I was saying with the exhaust from here, the hydrocarbons. What if you could get it to go into a farm that's enclosed, and the plants convert the hydrocarbons, especially the carbon, back into oxygen, and the water is transformed again inside these farms, which then could go back into your fuel source, which then goes back into making energy, which then is exhausted. The plants then transform it, and you are in essence eating it. You are eating... This seems like a win-win to me from nature. The first time, wouldn't it be the first time that humans would actually make a fuel type? NASA's already done it. The European Space Agency have already done it. This is proven. You are then exchanging this for this. Man, you can't win in a win-win situation. If this is just so much in exchange with here you go, nature. Okay, thank you, nature. I'm going to put this into here. Nature sort of says, here you go, humans. Thank you very much. Okay, now we're going to make some fuel with this one. We're going to power some cars. We're going to make some electricity that keeps buildings lit, houses warm. Lovely. If we could utilize the heat as well, especially in those winter months, you probably want to switch these from back and forth. You probably want the heat that's coming off of it, and the heat is able to leave freely because it goes into a building somewhere, keeps it nice and warm in that building, or you cook from it. Again, you know, this then is one closest step to space you'll ever get, especially if this works completely 100% and you can get it so that you're sealing and exchanging. You'll know that you've always got this sort of life reserve that you can keep in this sort of living. Now can we take it to the moon? Does it work? And then you'll be having electricity, food, and humans and nature will both be sharing the same thing by working at the opposite poles of one another. Therefore, this harmonious exchange. How many plants does it take to convert that back into refuelable energy that goes back into this system? So from the energy that's created, the exhaust that comes out, you've got a nice big farm. Yes?
Yeah.
Bigger than this, perhaps. And then they've converted this, what we would call a waste product, that then can go back into the system again and run through again and again and again and again and again and again. And I mean, how much of a guarantee does that give all of us and future generations? This would be a beautiful gift to put into the hands of individuals who are going to come after. Once we're, you know, all but gone beyond this world, we leave this behind because we all got together through some of the hardest times of exchanging and going from fossil fuel over to a fuel that benefits both of us. Nature, humans. Nature, humans. Nature, humans. And then in these farms, can we start to grow exotic foods that come from other nations? Can we get lemon trees? Can we get oranges to grow in it? Can we get coconuts to grow in it? Because if we can, then we are not only fuel dependent. Independent. We're not only fuel independent, we are food independent. We are also energy independent. What more independence do you need in that? Now you are space independent.
Yeah.
I mean, if we stick to the old way of just going through this whole fossil fuels, and I understand that's an easier option, and this one seems a little bit more challenging, but isn't that what makes humans great? No matter where you are, when you use part brain, part this, and you create a perpetual motion or cycle that benefits everything involved. And then you've also got your air as well. So nature's taking care of your oxygen that you breathe. There is an awful lot that says this is exciting time. It is going to be a bit challenging. It is possible, highly possible, and highly probable that then we become so independent. We need another Independence Day on top of an Independence Day, right? That it would be independent on what now? And then this really speaks to our Western ways, doesn't it, of being a democracy as well and different things. I mean, this really lifts us to... It's a hell of a challenge. But didn't America go away from Britain on lands that were quite unknown? Australia, whoosh, 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 whoosh. Look how much they built. Look how far they went. Again, this is the same sort of endeavor. Yeah. It's just in different... Just, it's a little different, but not really. The point is still the same, isn't it? Reaching that independence. It's been done once. There you are. That proves it enough to me that this is something that can be done because... Yeah, and you're so independent then. Yeah, again, and if this was then put up in the EU, and then this was put up in Britain, America, Australia, again, this is amazing. You can also get under the sea with this.
Yeah.
Under the ocean.
Mm.
Protected. How deep can you go? I don't know. My question is, can we find out? How deep under the ocean can you go? That's not just the ocean, that is also ground. That is space. That is also other planets. Just converting all of this into, and then finding the limit of where we need this amount of plants versus this amount of fuel. Because technology will start getting better and better. The old 100-watt light bulbs. Now it's like LED and it's like 5 volts. So this getting better with the energy feeds into this system quite a lot. And sometimes if we're going to need to make more hydrocarbons because we need more food, well, then we can just go back to the old 100-watt for a little while. You know, and as technology gets better and better and better, TVs get less and less energy hungry, heating gets less and less. I mean, building this around all in one would probably be more beneficial because you can tap into that heat. You might as well use it anyway. There's no point making heat here and then happening to make heat inside your house as well. That's 2 lots of heat. You might as well just cash in off of this, and especially if it was a high-rise building, the heat could share through.
Yeah, hot water is usually shared.
Well, then hot water as well is another one.
And in winter, heating through the
Cooking.
Yeah, cooking and through the radiators.
Heating. Warmth. I don't know what else. And also for growing, it likes to be quite warm. Nature likes to shut down in the winter, probably too cold. We would stop the nature from shutting down in this. Again, look what nature has evolved into. If you go back to the times of dinosaur and there wasn't really much pine and different things like that, you'll notice that we will not only undo the door for evolution, but we would also undo the door for evolution of nature.
Mm-hmm.
Again, bringing nature up to par where we're at, because at the moment we're at a disadvantage with nature. When you think about it, nature shuts down for a few months of the year. We don't. And we keep these same habits that we've got over and over. So eventually you're going to see a lapse. But when nature begins to stay open in places where it usually doesn't, you know, hedges lose their leaves, this uses this is not operating as much as it did. You've got grass around, but it's minimal, it's not very big. But now inside here, you can have all of this nature open. What type of nature do we want to have open during those months? Well, definitely food. Definitely food. Something that can give back, yes, because we're not 100% selfish in that, but we're not stupid either. We know that we need food. Food keeps us going, and nature can keep itself going by providing the food. There's like a yin and yang work in here with humans and nature. You give me, I give you. Well, it sounds like a fair deal to me. No, that's fair enough. I like that. That's when life forms begin to work together. So nature being one life form, humans being another life form, pets included. You know, you give and take.
Yeah.
And then we keep nature awake, which I'm sure if I could communicate with nature via a computer, let's say long time in the future, you find a way to tap into what nature truly thinks, if it does.
Yeah.
And you were to ask it a choice, do you want to shut down for winter? Or you were to ask nature, do you like winter? I'm pretty sure it'll say like most other life forms, not really. I'd much rather have my leaves out under light, in warmth, in this. I think it would prefer to have that. Again, but I'm thinking for a life form, again, seems kind of strange. But really, it's not really strange thinking when you think about it. Although there's a lot of thinking. Don't worry about that. But this can be done. And we're no longer dependent on oil, gas. And then I guess, is it control? I'm not sure. Or rising prices.
On different countries. Yeah.
We become dependent. Independent.
Independent. From them.
An independent way of thinking. An independent way of existing. Independent on fuel. Independent on this. Independent on food supply. Can we become so much so that we're growing more food than we know what to do with? then do we have enough in there to allow anybody else to join into this endeavor who wants to join in this endeavor to make not only yourselves great, but also the future generations that will come after you're long and gone. Yeah. I mean, this is something I would like to tell, see God or whatnot, the universe. So what did you do with your life? Well, we did this. Now that is impressive. I gave you this much and you decided to take it and times it by that. Wonderful. Wonderful. Is there any chance you could go to these other planets over here? Yeah, one's enough, No, I'm, whatever it may be. Yeah, you understand what I'm saying. Of course, to help anything else move forwards with this. Yeah, there you are. So, converting what we already have, which is a rocket, and using the fast movement of air from that to power turbines or fan blades from that, as many as you can get going in that. I just wonder, can you just keep adding them? Because I don't know if it's going to fade out, to be honest. And just as it begins to start to slow down, can we not... maybe it's easier if I just write this in, right? So if in this area it's fast moving enough, yes, but it begins to slow down. Yeah. What happens if I force the opening, restrict it? The air has to try and get through that gap. Does it then create another passage of fast moving air? And then if I go to restrict it again, just as it starts to fall off, and then create another chamber, which then I just keep installing fan blades into this, fan blades into this. Whereas in the beginning, I may only get fan blades in the first one, but by restricting the movement of air, by restricting it, can I make the air move fast again? I'm pretty sure you can. Again, it'd be pointless on a rocket. Well, maybe it wouldn't. I don't know. Again, what would you need it to move it? But anyway, and you just kept going. How far could you keep adding that on with fan blades that could go into pull and turn motors? And again, they're going to bite down really hard, but the air is going to say, I need to get out of this area. I need to, much like a balloon, I need to find my balance with the outer atmosphere. I need to regulate. I need to be equal to. And that force is a hell of a lot of force, I think, for it to... Yeah, it wants to get level with everything else, so it kind of knows that there is level outside. Interesting how it knows that without actually knowing. Interesting, but still, when you let go of the balloon, is it possible? I think it is. I feel it. It's got to be, because it's fast moving air. That's what causes the rocket to go up, after all. And we don't want it to reach anything. We don't want to try and swing the planet round with these. It's not what we're achieving. We want it to spin these around. Not that I reckon you could. I don't think you could, just by attaching a rocket to the top of the Earth and one at the bottom facing counter direction, would it actually rotate the planet? Interesting thought, though. Maybe for asteroids, you could try and move its trajectory without blowing it up. I don't know, just this is coming to me now, so I might as well explore it while I'm here. If you had a meteorite that's travelling in this direction, yes? If you were to land a rocket on it with fuel, and its vent was this way, could you manipulate its movement in any way? Via landing... let's say rockets that are ready to burn off, could you move its trajectory by, shooting out a large amount of vents? Would it make it go faster? Could you actually move its direction via doing this? If you had them fire at different times, could you move it up? Could you move it down? As opposed to trying to blow up an asteroid in the first place, could you move it by landing an object on it? Or again, a heavy object that you just throw out whilst it's anchored to it? Would it pull it slightly whilst throwing it? Think of a fishing line, someone going to cast before fishing, yes? If this object was sat on the asteroid and it threw a weight out, and then pulled it back in.
Yeah.
And then it threw the weight out. And you know, when the line gets taut, it pulls on the asteroid. And then you pull it back in slowly. And then you throw it again. I mean, something like this, could you even travel through space with something like that? When I went to watch this movie, although it was fiction, someone said, throw a hammer. I don't remember what that was on now. I don't even remember when I saw that. I was a kid. Anyway, so I saw some... that was the only bit of that I saw. So I have no idea what it would. I just know they were in space and someone said, throw a hammer. They threw a hammer and the person then made it back to the craft all nice and safely. That's all I saw. Just hear this bit. See this bit. So that gave me an idea that if the hammer was connected to some piece of rope or whatnot, I don't know, and you threw it out and it pulled taut, would it pull you toward it? Yeah, it would throw you away to start with. I don't know. And I just wonder, from that point, could you move an asteroid or object by throwing these different things? Because once it's flung out, that's got to pull you in some way if you're anchored to a point. And if you were to throw it and there was nothing attached to you, yeah, sure, I reckon that would make you go backwards, but wouldn't it tug you in the opposite direction? I'm not sure. I'm not sure where that would go, whether that cancel each other out. But if you're on an object that's more heavier and you weren't thinking of a person and you were to throw this counterweight out, could it tug it, especially if it's going in this direction? Would it slightly tug it? Of course. Not sure. And then you pull it back in with your string. Okay, here we go again. Either or, one of those forces is going to be more greater than the other. And therefore, slowly but surely, it's either going to move you down or it's going to move you up, depending on the object that it was flying toward. Moving toward, because it's not really flying. It's going to eventually push you off your course. That's what I think anyway. But yeah, so I wonder if you ever put a rocket, 2 of them, laid it onto an object, maybe 3, and make them pop at different times. If you could start and stop them. Again, if cars got really good, could you move it out the way and therefore would never really need to worry about making something explosive to hit it and cause it to go into shrapnel, which sometimes seems impossible? Could you just land something on it and begin to move it out of the way? I think that's a far safer option. Okay, Biggins, into Jupiter you go. Or, hell me, there's some good resources on here. Should we land it on the Earth? Yes, mate. Let's land that baby on the Earth. Yeah, because it could be a gold mine, or perhaps it wouldn't be gold. Maybe lithium or hydrogen or methane, or it could be something. I don't know about methane. We've got enough of that, but still, it could be something that was oxygen or water or something that's unknown to humans so far. Well, let's have a gander at this. Land it on the moon, then. Yeah, then eventually move it into the moon. Slow it down enough just so it doesn't smack into it. I mean, that would be something. But again, that's a different story, but the mind does wander off to these. I should really focus in on this one. So yeah, hydrogen fuel, is it the next way to go? And maybe you need 2 fuel tanks or maybe 3 of them. And while one is filling up, the other one's filling up, this one's discharging, and then you go back to this one, and then you move from this one to 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 this one, whilst going from 1 to 2, 1 to 2, 1 to 2. One's empty and one's filling, one's empty and one's filling, one's empty and one's filling. And then you've always got power, haven't you? You do. You literally do. I think I've said enough. I don't want to say any more because, you know, I was going to turn the Hoover on and show you with the Hoover pipe when it blows into this how fast it goes. Given the understanding that this would be the exhaust of the rocket aimed at a load of these one after the other. So I have managed to make multiple of these stacked from one to the other. They will power through each of them, and when it gets going, the other one gets going. Sure, there's a little bit of I don't know, because that wouldn't be fair for me to say that one was spinning faster than the other. That would be unfair for me to say that, because they were different fan blades on them.
Yeah.
And they might have to be built in a certain way to be able to cope with this force coming out of here. And perhaps they need to get smaller. Maybe, maybe not. But again, if it was connected to a cog and it it put a lot of force into that rotation, how many wind turbines could you power off of it? if they were connected to a gearbox or clockwork mechanism was one that I was thinking of many moons ago. But either or, you could seriously spin these pretty damn fast. And could you spin them this way, get them into the north and south of the planet?
Yeah.
Is there less wear and tear if fans are angled level with the magnetic field? Do they strain due to the magnetic field of the planet when they're on the side? That's why they wear out. But if they were level with the Earth's true north and south, again, which this, I think it alters, doesn't it? True magnetism really does fluctuate. So if it was to move it like a gyroscope type thing, would the fan blades or the motors be less prone to burning out? Is the reason why they burn out so much and have a lot of wear and tear because they are, after all, they're a bit similar to an electromagnet. So again, it would be similar to, I just wonder that. And then do motors last longer in space away from the magnetism of that? Do they have to be positioned somehow in towards the sun or whatnot? Anyway, good question. Because when they're spinning and you rotate it around your wrist, crikey, do you feel it? That force. I like the feeling of that force, especially with hard drives. When you rotate a hard drive. With some of the bigger ones, but if you've got an old hard drive and you make the thing spin faster than it ever would normally, and you spin it in your wrist, wow, that's a force and a half. I like the feeling of that, but I often wonder if that is fighting against the Earth's magnetism, north and south. I wonder if it's grinding against that in a way, rather than the motion of my wrist moving back and forth. I'm very fascinated with that force. It's very strong depending on how it alters and how fast the object is spinning. So interesting. So then that got me thinking, do these get that wear and tear because of that? And if it was on a gyroscope platform, perhaps not a gyroscope, but if it was on another gyroscope was working in a computer, and these were sat on positioning pods, and they moved with that movement of our magnetic field, would they be less likely to burn out motors because they would work a bit more easier with that from the force of this? Yep, that's another thing I wonder. And do motors have to go opposite direction like cyclones do, from one hemisphere to another? So if you were in the southern hemisphere, would the motors that rotate on here, would they be better to go one way, and the ones of the northern hemisphere have to go another way? Would that help as well? Does that help or have an influence on motors that burn out quicker than others? Very interesting. So does direction have a impact on their lifespan? Again, all of these questions I feel are very important, especially if you're going to be playing around with motors and stuff. It would be interesting to know that. So yeah, I'll save your ears because that Hoover is very noisy. But yeah, if you're like me and you've got a Hoover or a blower, leaf blower, man, you can try it. You'll rotate it. And that is the small scale version of a rocket for me. Is it worth it? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. Does it generate large amounts of energy? It's possible. It's possible. Hydrocarbons versus one or the other? No. There you are. Leave it with you.